But now let's get into that news. We got the story from Real Clear Politics. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, FOP president, is attempting to induce an insurrection by opposing vaccine mandate. I just love that line. She said, "We believe that the Fraternal Order of Police leadership is trying to foment an illegal work stoppage or strike," she said. "We are not having that. The contract is clear. The police unions are not authorized to strike." What we've seen from the Fraternal Order of Police leadership is a lot of misinformation and, frankly, flat out lies in order to induce an insurrection.
What?
And we're not having that. The law is on our side. We feel very confident about it. Urging members of the department to ignore the chain of command. Let me be clear. John Catanzara has destroyed his police career, destroyed it. He is not fit, and he is never going to go back in any kind of active position. I don't want him to lead these young officers astray and have them destroy their careers like he has destroyed his. I just love the idea of an executive issuing an order by decree, and then when someone says, "I object," that's an insurrection. Well, that's what we get. Did you guys see in Seattle, the cops have started flying the Gadsden flags?
Yeah, I saw that.
It's become a thing now.
And the Southwest Airlines as well, posting a lot of photos of the Gadsden flags inside of the airplanes there. But this is nothing new from Lori Lightfoot. I mean, I am seeing a lot of comments talk about Beetlejuice in the comment section. Just for clarification, I think it's important to bring up some of these facts. But this is the same mayor that we have to understand. Just a couple of months ago, during the middle of the whole COVID crisis, when she was telling everyone to stay home, we need to lock down, we need to punish people, she was walking the streets being like, "Go home right now." She also went out there and defied her own decrees and went and got a haircut and then told everyone, "Well, I need a haircut. I'm out in the public eye, and it's important for me to flaunt these rules that I made up that you have to obey."
Another bloody weekend in Chicago, as at least 4.
But you know what I think? Just real quick, I think the funny thing is they wanted to defund the cops. Mm-hmm. So all these guys are saying, "Hey, we're not going to come to work." This should be the easiest solution. She should be in favor of this. Great. Yeah. We wanted to defund you anyway. But it's funny, once they say we're not coming to work, now it's you guys are an insurrection. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Either you defund them and you don't want them to show up and you don't like them, but suddenly now it's I care about them and I can't believe they're not showing up for work.
This is why I refer to the establishment, it's mostly the Democrats and the media, as the cult, because it doesn't matter what their position was. It just matters what the whim is today. Before it was like, the police are bad. Okay, everybody, I agree with whatever you've said for whatever reason. Defund the police. Now all of a sudden the cops are like, we're going to walk. And they're like, no, you can't leave. That's an insurrection. There's no real principle behind what they do.
No.
It's just fall in line behind the establishment, behind those in charge. But to elaborate on the Lori Lightfoot thing that Luke mentioned, Lori Lightfoot literally just posted this yesterday at 5:24 p.m. It's an image of her violating Chicago's mask mandates. So, you know, you ask, who's doing the insurrection? The people who are breaking the laws of this country, violating the Constitution, trying to rule by decree, not even following their own rules? I don't think it's the
president himself and Jill Biden were out to dinner this weekend in Georgetown at a very expensive restaurant, and they get filmed with that. They wonder why people
don't take them seriously.
Don't take them seriously, but it's over and over again. And what does Jen Psaki? I mean, these guys just go every time they get caught. It's come on, seriously. Don't that's not a big deal. Gavin Newsom at French Laundry, all of these politicians, one after another on the Democratic side, get caught not obeying the mandates and the restrictions that they send for everybody else. DC's Mayor Eleanor Hornibs Norton, same thing, goes to a wedding. But it's everybody else should follow this, and then they wonder why people don't believe and trust in them anymore. It's because of this.
Yeah. And I just kind of want to add to this point, because when we look at Chicago, I think it's fair to argue that it's already a mess. More young people die in Chicago from gang shootings than COVID. Mm-hmm. And we have to understand the Chicago Police Chief Union, the president of the police union in Chicago, is standing up and saying that almost 3,000 officers are going to defy a lot of these mandates, 1/3 of the entire Chicago Police Department. If that happens, I think it's fair to say there's going to be far greater implications in Chicago than we could even expect.
People
to
are
understand.
Die. Yeah. But you think about it, you got cops, healthcare workers, teachers, airline pilots. The list goes on of all these professions that are saying, if you force me to do something against my will, military members. At what point is that tipping point where society then really deals with the consequences of this? Right? You think about all these professions that we need who are pushing back.
I don't think it's about the vaccines. I think it's about purging institutions of authority. So the cops that are putting up the Gadsden flags, defying the orders and quitting, are the ones who clearly have an issue with mandated medical procedures.
Yeah.
But the cops who remain are going to be like, whatever.
This, I agree with you. I don't think this has to do with getting a vaccine or not at the core of it. This has to do with government telling you to do something. And I think this has been bungled from the beginning. Every day that Dr. Fauci's out there is a day that creates further tension and further confusion. At the end of the day, if you like Dr. Fauci, you've got vaccinated like 5 months ago. There's nobody out there right now that's saying, oh, wait a second, Dr. Fauci's on the air. Let me listen to what he has to say to Rachel Maddow. You know what? It's a good point. He said there, Rachel, if you haven't been vaccinated, do it now. Get 4 jabs and 2 masks. That's no one is waiting for Fauci at this point. You bought in a long time ago. All they're doing now, and this weekend, Fauci goes on the Sunday shows, and when he gets asked about criticism of himself, he says, if you criticize me, you're like a conspiracy theorist. The same guy, by the way, just so we're clear, one of the quotes that he gave out this weekend is that it's probably likely that J&J should have been a second dose, right? No, think about this. 2 words that don't normally go with science. Probably and should. It's either yes or no. It's either the data shows or not. But Fauci's out there going, probably should have been 2. That doesn't invoke confidence in the system when the head guy is saying, yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, Fauci didn't just call people conspiracy theorists that didn't like him. They said that these people are denying reality. And he said, quote, sometimes the truth becomes inconvenient for some people, so they react against me. That's just is what it is. I mean, that's a delusional kind of thinking. We're talking about megalomania here with someone who loves to see his own face on national television. And this is a sycophantic individual that should never be taken seriously, in my opinion.
I think it's, let me see if I can try and find this.
Oh, yeah, where he's in his study with his picture of himself.
And the candle. He has a candle of himself.
Are you serious?
Yes, in his back.
I might do something like that if
That
I
sounds
had one.
exciting.
But
Candle
I gotta be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that
Do you
you
want
each
Ian
need one
running
behind
national
you.
health policy?
No, you
That's
don't.
right, you don't.
We got to get a nice sketch of Tim behind
Here
Tim.
we go.
Yeah, I would do
Yes.
that.
Here we go.
A candle of Tim looking
So
at
here's the photo.
Oh, snap. It's from the
Dr.
documentary.
Fauci
Oh, my God.
in his workplace, his office, with a portrait of himself.
But I would do it as a joke.
gosh,
That's a
yeah.
little extreme.
To be fair, we do have a big Timcast on the wall, but someone sent us that. So it was
That's
artwork
different.
from
Yeah.
from.
But
here's
it's
the
not just
show.
that. He has pillows. He has candles of himself. He literally has to go on the mainstream media that loves and adores him. He never goes on the media that questions him. He never goes on the media that dares to ask him a legitimate, hard question. He never dares to go after opposition voices. And if he was really caring about people's health, he would address the hard questions.
We literally at one point on my show on Newsmax had a Fauci watch, and we asked him for something like 70-something days, and we finally gave up because it got silly. But at the end of the day, he hasn't gone on anything alternative. If the theory, which the data does not actually support, is that conservatives and Trump supporters, et cetera, are the ones that are the big hesitant folks about this, then why wouldn't you go to where they are and have a conversation and say, okay, I'll take some questions? But that's the data doesn't suggest that, number one. Number two is because he doesn't want pushback. Anytime someone questions anything, he gets so red. Watch Rand Paul question him the next time.
I think Sanjay Gupta is a good example of why he won't.
Right.
Because Joe Rogan didn't let that slide.
Biden wouldn't either. He like hid in his basement during the election cycle last time. He just didn't want to get caught with his pants
The
down.
truth is not the friends of these people, right? So to bring it back to Chicago, we also have, I think, the NYPD, the fire department in New York, CPD. We've got nurses, doctors. I'm not going to say that it's the majority. I think in Chicago, it's a substantial amount, because I think they said something like 59% of cops are vaccinated. So you've got 41% that aren't, which means that's seriously bad for a city like Chicago, which has very serious gun problems. But there's a large portion. There was, I think in New York, it was between 11 and 6% of the police were like outright refusing. That may seem like a small percentage, but in a city that big, that could mean crippling an entire neighborhood or borough or the highways. Who knows? So you have these people outright defying these mandates. I kind of feel like, I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't know if it will be enough. I feel like a lot of these cops are using this to negotiate their contracts. Ultimately, it's not going to be enough to actually put a dent in this. And then, not to be pessimistic, but what, in 2-3 years we have social credit system?
But the problem is you can't replace the cops, right? So if 6% of the cops call it, just five for argument's sake, say we're walking off the job because of this vaccine mandate, that's to your point, in a place like New York or Chicago, a big city, that's several neighborhoods that suddenly don't have police covering them. There's not a crop behind them, especially in the whole defund the police movement, of officers that are waiting to take these jobs. We have demonized police officers to such a degree that they're having a tough time recruiting these individuals. So you lose that percentage. Yeah. And to your point about Chicago, crime goes back up.
I mean, just a few months ago, who wanted to be a cop? No one, especially with the demonization, especially with everything that happened with Black Lives Matter. And I think a lot of these mandates don't have to do anything about health. I think a lot of them are loyalty tests. And that's why a lot of officers who are not going along with the programming, not going along with the conditioning, not going along with the agenda, they're being purged. And we're seeing a lot of videos. I played a couple of videos today on my channel, specifically of police officers resigning, calling in as they're still in uniform in their police car. There's a bunch of those videos going around as well. One of them saying some very choice words for the for the governor of Washington that are pretty.
It must be a cold day in hell when you convince Luke Rudkowski to actually stand up for the cops.
No, I'm not. Who said I'm standing up for the cops? I'm just calling a spade here and talking about the facts here. No one wants to be a police officer because they don't.
That's the point. Yeah. Like, even saying that is still like telling the truth about what's going on with these officers.
Yeah, I'm not here to pick sides. I'm here to call out the bull crap. There's a lot of bull crap, but we got to be honest with the situation that we're dealing with.
You don't have to be political to say something like these cops are being demonized and they're coming after them in unjust ways. That doesn't mean I'm like a fan of every single cop or every department. It's just the reality is, like I just said, I'm not convinced the cops are going to stick this one out. I think they'll negotiate their contracts, get some special privileges, and then probably be like, okay, fine, whatever. But I do think a lot of the cops will quit because I think this is a hard line. A lot of people just can't cross physically. I thought about this, like if someone came to you and said you have to undergo this, and you're just like, dude, I can't cross that line. I will not be forced to do these things.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually that with all that it takes right now. I mean, I'm not in any way advocating this, but I'm just saying that it's funny that like people walk in all the time and say, hey, are you vaccinated or not? The people who aren't actually are taking a stand, because if you wanted to just fake it, you can.
Right.
I mean, let's fake it
very easily.
In a world like that we live in today, it's not hard to fake something documentation wise or otherwise. But yet the people who are doing this truly, I think, believe it and are saying, I'm willing to go down.
I think it's a private medical decision, and if people want to talk to their doctors about what makes for them.
But can I just not to get off on a tangent, but what other medical thing could you possibly imagine somebody walking into a group of friends or a work environment and saying, hey, did you get the such and such, or are you taking this pill, or did you have this procedure? There is no other thing that could possibly happen where this would be acceptable.
There's actually a great meme where someone said that they immediately went to their boss and said, if you are taking responsibility for COVID, I demand to know the status of every employee's medical history, including when they've had the flu, if they're pregnant, if they have HIV, because certainly we should take those into consideration in the workplace if you're concerned about this. Yeah. The idea basically being, as soon as the employer says, we recognize our liability in this, COVID, then you could say, okay, well, then every other shot's on the book.
And these are not popular policies. People don't want to ask permission and be granted special paperwork by the same entity that runs the DMV to go to their supermarket or their local restaurant. This is a whole level of absurdity and insanity that people are protesting in droves, including people in Dallas. There was an airport employee protest there today. In Texas, there was massive protests in Italy where police officers used tear gas, water cannons on dock workers, on union workers, on protesters standing against the insane policies being implemented in Italy, where they are pushing the agenda further, faster, and quicker than almost anywhere else in the world right now. And these clashes are not just creating protests and fights between police officers, which are still obeying the laws, obeying the decrees by every exact extent that they are. But this is also having a huge effect on our economy, on our supply chains, on global trade. And these effects are absolutely monstrous and they're going to be very huge.
One interesting thing that we had a poll the other day from the Trafalgar group that we played on the show that was really interesting. If you listen to the mainstream media, I think you get the takeaway that Luke had, which is that there's this widespread belief that everyone had it. But a plurality of Democrats, 47-43, so not just barely, almost a majority, actually don't support people losing their jobs if they don't get the vaccine. But if you listen to the news, you would think that this is widely spread, especially among the left, and it's not.
That's why I call him a cult. Because Matthew Iglesias is a great tweet. He said, Twitter is people who are 95% further left than the average voter arguing with people who are 75% further left than the average voter that they're too far right. You have my favorite metric, because I feel like it's the easiest to understand for anyone who's paying attention, is that Democrats, 54%, according to Civics, believe the economy is good.
Yeah.
That's insane. 70% of moderates say fairly bad or very bad. 88% of Republicans say fairly bad or very bad. And the reality is it's very bad.
Yeah. Correct.
Objectively. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.